Your son is gone. He was weak and foolish like his father. So I destroyed him.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weak and Foolish Movie Podcast. My name is Mike Tang, and with me is
Job Ang.
In this episode, we will be discussing two new movies, Birds of Prey and the fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Yes, that's the title of one of the movies. And the other movie is Sonic the Hedgehog. For those of you tuning in for the first time, each of our podcast episodes begins with a non-spoiler section of the movie where we describe our thoughts on the film without revealing any specific plot details. This section is then followed by a spoiler discussion where we will delve into all aspects of the film. So just an interesting note, we were just talking about this before we started recording, but a year ago, we also recorded a combo episode with where we kind of discussed two movies. It was the Lego Movie and Alita Battle Angel. And a year ago, we had 219 views in our very first video, which was the top 10 movies of 2018. And a year later, our top 10 movies of 2019 had a 200 viewership drop-off. We had 19 views on our top 10 movies of 2019 episodes. So at this rate, we're going to have negative viewership in a year. Anyways, for those of you who have stuck around to this point, thank you. We appreciate you. We're kind of embarrassed. I think I'm kind of embarrassed that so many people listened to the very first episode. And that was definitely the roughest one where, I don't know, it's just, it was the first time we were podcasting. So a lot of areas where we could have improved on.
Agreed. But thanks everyone for sticking with us all this time.
Yeah. All right, so we'll first start our discussion with Birds of Prey.
You know what a harlequin is? A harlequin's role is to serve. It's nothing without a master. And no one gives two shits who we are beyond that. The Joker and I broke up. I wanted a fresh start. But it turns out I wasn't the only dame in Gotham looking for emancipation.
Job, what are your non-spoiler thoughts on this movie?
Okay, so Birds of Prey, or Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, or Birds of Prey Emancipation of... yes, there's many titles for this movie.
They've actually changed the title a couple
Several
times, right?
times, yeah. Which is kind of emblematic of this movie. Just to be clear, it's not a good movie. It's messy, convoluted, and I think it's too focused on the message it's trying to preach. But knowing what was coming, mainly that men are fools, all men are out to get the women in the world, etc., etc. Knowing all of that going in, I actually had a blast watching this movie. It was a great time. I found the humor to be quite well timed. The comedy was really well written. Well, let's backtrack. Maybe not well written, but well executed, I suppose. I think Margot Robbie is given a lot more time to shine here than in Suicide Squad, and that really helps this movie. It's a really great movie about her. It's about her more than it is about the vigilante group that is the title, Birds of Prey. But really, calling it Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey probably would be the right title for this movie. And I want to just say one thing about the villain. Ewan McGregor is delightful in this movie. He's got this weird homoerotic thing going on with his sidekick, and it's very uncomfortable to watch unfold, but in a great way. Meaning it was an effective performance, I suppose. And he's a great villain. I think some of my favorite moments in this movie are actually when Ewan McGregor's character says, "Ugh, gross," during the movie. I think it's so perfectly delivered and hilarious. He's just delightfully wicked. I have other thoughts. We can save it for spoilers, but that's kind of where I'm at. It's a fun movie. It's not a great movie. It's a little preachy, but we expected that for the type of cast and that it came out in 2020. But overall, a good time.
Awesome. Yeah, I find it interesting that you said that it was preachy. I didn't actually get that impression, but I guess we can talk more about that in the spoiler section. I agree with you. I had fun with this movie. I thought that this is the movie that Suicide Squad should have been. It's a more character-focused film with a smaller budget and a simpler story to build out the world of Gotham City in the DCEU. And I think when you do it this way, you're that much more invested in the characters. Suicide Squad kept introducing characters up to the halfway point into the movie. You know, like when Katana just steps in, and then you have a character who has to just introduce her to the rest of the gang. It's just such a sloppy movie, and there's so much going on. It just became a huge mess. And, you know, as much as I didn't like Suicide Squad, I kind of like the way that Birds of Prey continues that movie, and it doesn't completely ignore those events, kind of like what Aquaman did with Justice League. Both movies addressed the movies that came before it, and you know, even though Suicide Squad was in my opinion, it was kind of like a disaster, but there are still things in that movie that I think can be used to continue to build out the world, and I think it was a smart decision on DC and Warner Brothers' part and the filmmakers to choose to continue and build out that world rather than just scrap everything and reboot it. I feel like the world of the DCEU Gotham City seems more fleshed out at this point, and I actually like it. It's a lot of colorful criminals with crazy costumes, and these aren't just mobsters, but they're very theatrical. They're almost like in a Baz Luhrmann movie, and you know, they're excessively showy and glittery wardrobe. If you're not familiar with Baz Luhrmann, he did Great Gatsby. He did the 1996 Romeo and Juliet. He did Moulin Rouge. So just lots of, I don't know, glitter and fireworks in his movies, and especially in the way the characters are dressed and the way they behave. And I think I felt that from this version of Gotham City. Margot Robbie, she seems to have a lot of fun with the Harley Quinn character, and I'm glad because I think she's perfect for the role. Ewan McGregor also sinks his teeth into the villain role of Black Mask. I agree with you. He just gives such a great performance. I really, really liked him a lot in this movie. And usually in movies he plays a good guy, but this one, man, he's a crazy bad guy, psychotic. Yeah, so I enjoyed seeing him in this role. I think the film has fun playing with the events out of chronological order. I know you kind of felt like it was messy. I felt like it kept me engaged in the movie. It helped keep things a little loose and lighthearted. The fight choreography, I thought was actually really impressive. There were some action sequences that I felt was really difficult to pull off. There's one in particular with Margot Robbie and a bat. And I was really impressed by that. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yes.
So, there's a lot to appreciate about Birds of Prey. I guess I wouldn't say that it's not a good movie. I actually enjoyed it. I think it's maybe legitimately like a B plus type movie. My gripe about it is that it really isn't about anything other than getting all these girls together to form this new team. And I would have liked to see a little bit more from the story, but I understand, you know, it's meant to have Harley Quinn stand on her own as a character rather than be an accessory to the Joker, which she's always been known as that throughout the cartoon and the comics and whatnot. So I actually enjoy this movie. I don't think it's fantastic, but I think it's good. That's as high of a praise that I think I would give to this movie.
It's fantabulous, Mike. Fantabulous.
Oh.
Yes.
I should have quoted that from the title. Well, they dropped it, so,
They did. So maybe it doesn't count anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any other non-spoiler thoughts before we move on to spoilers?
I was going to ask a question, but I think we should move it to spoilers because it has to do with the story mechanics. So maybe let's move into spoilers.
Okay. All right. So spoilers for Birds of Prey starting now.
No, you're still holding on! Let go!
All right. So what is the spoiler mechanics that, or the story
Okay.
mechanics that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I thought that what you mentioned previously was great. How this is Harley Quinn separating herself from the Joker character, but I don't know. There's some moments in this movie that she references the Joker, and there's a visual representation of him, whether it's the drawing on her wall or in the animation that looks nothing like Jared Leto's Joker, which was really confusing. And so I want to ask you, Mike, because I'm not following the DCEU's development as much, but first of all, what happened to Jared Leto's Joker in terms of this storyline, and also the one that just won a billion Oscars has nothing to do with this story, right?
Yeah. A billion Oscars. Actually, it's just 2 Oscars.
Okay. It got nominated for a billion.
It was nominated for a lot, and it only won 2. But, those are deserved awards that it won.
Right.
Yeah, so it has nothing
a little bit.
Yeah, right. It has nothing to do with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker from last year. But the last thing we saw of Jared Leto's Joker was where he broke into a prison to rescue Harley Quinn. And so the last time we saw them, they were together. And I guess there's a bit of a time gap. I think the movie says like 8 months to a year, maybe. I forget. But there is a time jump from Suicide Squad to this movie, and I don't know. We don't know what exactly happened, but they apparently broke up. So it was an easy way out to not use Jared Leto in this movie.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? How he looks like the Jack Nicholson Joker more than the Jared Leto Joker in all the ways she drew him, the animation of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think it looked like a typical drawing of a Joker that you would see in like the cartoons. It's not really like close to, well, and in all fairness, like the cartoon representations of Harley Quinn, it doesn't really look like Margot Robbie either. It looks more like the cartoon version of her. Although she is dressed at some points in the same attire. I think I don't know, I think that's just a choice that they made in terms of how to animate him. Or represent him in a drawing. I'm just nitpicking. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think they might recast Jared Leto if they were to use the DCEU Joker again?
That's actually what I'm getting at. Is are they looking to redo the Joker altogether, and this is their way of kind of conveniently shifting it? I don't know.
Yeah, I know in Suicide Squad, Jared Leto's like a method actor, and he did some crazy things behind the scenes. He committed fully to this role, and he was like sending boxes of like used condoms to cast members, and I think Margot Robbie got like a dead rat or something in the mail from the Joker, or Jared Leto as the Joker. So I think the cast members felt like I need to kind of read up on this, but I think this, from what I remember of Suicide Squad and the articles written about it, like they really didn't like the fact that he pulled off all the stunts.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's fair. I suppose I was just wondering, like, this must be their way of distancing away from the Joker. Anyway. We should go into more of the story. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, hey, before we move on, who would you cast it? If you were to recast the Joker, who would you pick?
Joaquin Phoenix? Man. Well, it's sad because Ewan McGregor basically was the Joker in this movie. I heard someone else say that. I forgot.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. I felt like if you just slapped some like white makeup on him, he would have been such a great Joker. Yeah. He's like a more restrained version of Jared Leto's Joker, but man, you give him a laugh and yeah, some face paint, and dude, he's the Joker. He was so good as Black Mask.
Yes, I agree.
I really wish they didn't kill him off. You know, at the end he explodes.
That's right.
I was actually really bummed because I thought you could totally use this guy for more stories and, you know, more as like a greater antagonist, you know.
Yeah, it could be that they're clearing the way for Joker to return in this story, but
True.
But I do agree. I wish he kind of stuck around. Unfortunately, he got killed. What did you think of the whole plot with the diamond and the girl? I forgot her name. Swallowing it.
The thief.
Yeah.
The Asian girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that setup was like interesting. Okay, like whoever gets this diamond gets access to like all these funds, so that's why everybody's after it. I think that's, you know, that's interesting enough to move the story along. But you know, that's all it was. That's it. The entire movie is just after this diamond, this MacGuffin. So, I kind of mentioned this in the non-spoiler section, but I kind of wanted more from the story than just the hunt for this diamond. Like, you know, more stuff. Have some more things happen. I know Batman is in flux right now in the DCEU because Ben Affleck has exited the role. But, you know, I felt like they could have brought in Batman at some point. You just have someone else look like Ben Affleck in the Batsuit. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. What did you think about that?
Continuity thing is is Robert Pattinson's Batman going to be in this story?
I think what's more likely is that Robert Pattinson might connect to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie.
Oh, okay, so it's a.
I think that's actually more likely than Robert Pattinson showing up in the DCEU. True. But you know, I could be completely wrong.
Okay, that makes some sense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if they were, I mean, what do you think? Do you think they would bring Robert Pattinson in?
That's the interesting thing. It feels like DC is building two different universes at this point. There's the stylized comic booky one with Wonder Woman still in it and Harley Quinn and all of these characters, but with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker and now the Batman, the new one. It sounds like they're trying to spin off a second continuity that's a little more gritty, a little more real worldy. I heard the Batman is going to be more of a detective noir type of film, which doesn't quite fit with, you know, Birds of Prey. So it's kind of interesting. I guess I'm, you know, we watch films to kind of sink ourselves into the world, to immerse ourselves into the world, and sometimes, you know, I'm not following as closely with these stories. It feels like, okay, so what part of the world are we in? Is this the same world where Wonder Woman's doing her thing right now, or it kind of makes me think, how does this matter in terms of what we have seen? I've seen all the DCEU movies, you know, I've seen them all, and I'm just curious where it all fits, and it's a little confusing.
This post Justice League era of the DCEU, it seems like they're not very concerned with continuity. They're not concerned with building a universe, a shared cinematic universe. It seems like they've just gone back to the way things were like in the early 2000s, where it's just standalone movies that don't connect to anything. I mean, there's like loose connections, but they're not trying to like cross over or anything, which I find, you know, it's good that they're trying to work on just every movie by itself. But, you know, I think they still have a chance to reconnect all these movies. I just don't know how they would do it at this point. Just with the current movies on their slate, nothing seems to be like, you know, none of the movies seem to be, you know, working on some kind of like continuous storyline like the MCU.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another thing I kind of felt was like gratuitous about the movie was that it was rated R, and they dropped some F-bombs. They say the S word, and there's like some blood and gore, but I don't think it was actually necessary, you know? Like, this could have easily been a PG-13 movie, and maybe they could have earned more at the box office. I think it's kind of well publicized at this point. The movie is a little bit disappointing at the box office.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think? Did you feel like this should have been like an R-rated movie, or could have been toned down?
Not at all. I think the R was just to, like you said, to fill those the F-bombs and the SHIT words in there, and it kind of had, it felt like a PG-13 film. I'm not sure what they were going for, why they thought it would be a good idea to make it a rated R film. I agree. It didn't really make sense to me. I there was some pretty violent stuff, some John Wickian type of violence, but even those are PG-13, right? So I mean,
John Wick?
No, wait, those are rated R.
Yeah. I was like, no, man, those are hard R movies. I forgot to mention this with Ewan McGregor's performance, but that scene where he flips out at the girl in the bar, he tells her to stand on top of the table. That scene was so terrifying.
Yes.
Like, his performance was just like, he just was, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it was mesmerizing. It's like a side of Ewan McGregor that we rarely get to see. He's like legitimately scary at that moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. He was a highlight of this movie for sure, and I think in a lot of ways, Ewan McGregor as Black Mask elevates this movie above what it could have been.
Elevates it above the women, right?
Yeah, in a way, not really what I'm saying.
I'm just kidding.
I see what you did there. Someone's gonna like find this clip someday and say, "Hey, Job agrees." No, if a lesser villain would have caused this movie to really be terrible, I think Ewan McGregor, he elevates the quality overall of this movie because of how vicious a villain he is. I completely agree. What did you think of like the other the other main characters, like Huntress, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Black Canary, Journey Smollett Bell, and Renee Montoya, Rosie Perez? What did you think of the other three main characters?
I thought they were cool. Like, the Huntress backstory was really interesting.
Yeah.
And the cop was interesting in that, like, you know, everyone didn't really give her a chance at the workplace. There's the thief, and then Black Canary. That was pretty awesome. I think when she busted out her power.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was a huge moment, because I mean, that's what she was in like the cartoons and the comics. You know, that's her ability. So I mean, for her, I didn't even think about it at the moment, but then when she busted out, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. She has that power. That was pretty cool.
It was a reminder that you were watching a comic book movie in a way.
Right. Yeah, because no one else has like a power. Yeah. They're just like criminals.
Yeah.
I think I'd be down to see this gang again in another movie. I think they need to do more. They spent, I think, way too long getting everybody together. Like, it was only until the last 20-30 minutes where they are finally in the same room. You know.
Yeah.
Some of them I had no idea that they were going to be on the team, like the cop. What's her name? Montoya?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that she was going to be on the Birds of Prey team.
I thought she would be a side cop character, you know, the typical cop.
Right, yeah. So, did you is it okay? There was this one scene that I wanted to see if you noticed. That was really weird, the way it was cut together. The Huntress basically shows up at Harley Quinn's apartment, that Chinese restaurant. She speaks to the Taiwanese chef guy. I forgot his name. Yeah, but then she's there to see Harley Quinn, but then the next scene, a bunch of gangsters blow up the restaurant and the apartment above it where Harley Quinn is. And then there's like, they don't make no mention of the Huntress and what happened to her.
Yeah.
Like, did you notice that? Like, I was like, wait, so did she, where was she? She like showed up at the apartment and then she just disappears. Like, but she was looking for Harley Quinn.
Didn't they cut to
She
her
speaks like
motorbiking away from the scene?
I
To
don't
kinda
know.
imply
I
that-
can't remember exactly.
I think they were trying to imply that she may have been the one to be part of blowing the thing up, to kind of make it ambiguous what her character.
But why would she want to blow up
motivations
her? Why would she want to blow up Harley Quinn? Because she was after the gangsters who killed her family.
was. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't quite notice that. I think at that point I was accepting like the ride for what it was. I wasn't really
I see.
keeping track of the threads anymore. I was like, oh, Huntress is here. Oh, okay. The Chinese guy betrayed Harley, and oh no. But like at that point I wasn't tracking like, hey, wait, what happened to Huntress? Where, it was kind of like like my senses had been dulled at that point.
Yeah, you're like semi checked out already.
Not really. No, I don't want to say that. I was into the story, but I was allowing the movie to take me on these wild logical jumps. I wasn't like engaged intellectually anymore. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were watching it like it's Fast and the Furious.
I was letting it happen to me,
Letting it happen, just letting bad movies happen.
Yeah. Should make that a motto or something.
Well, do you have any other thoughts before we move on to the next movie?
No, I think we've talked long enough about this.
Okay. All right. Next up is Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers, so I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. Ow! Let the plate Sonic! Let the pitcher's mound also Sonic! Ugh, I can't with that guy. Uh-oh.
Hey, Joe, what are your non-spoiler thoughts about this movie?
Okay. I was much more positive about this one. Sonic was a great kids movie. It harkened back to my childhood of playing the Sonic games on my dad's PC. Yeah, I played it on a computer. We didn't have a Sega console of any kind. I used to be a PC gamer back in the day. And I guess Sega had licensed their games for Windows. But yeah, back in the day when I played the video games, hearing Dr. Robotnik's chilling like ho 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 in the background as he emerges always scared me. In this movie, he's played by Jim Carrey. It's a totally different character, but I love it. He plays his acting in this film is inspired, unhinged, and wonderful. He's a huge highlight. I won't talk too much more without spoiling it, but he was great. Sonic himself was a likable character. He was funny and cheesy at just the right amounts to be endearing. You know what I mean? So, like, I think if he made one or two more comments that were super cringy, I would have been like, all right, that's too much for me. But I feel like they did just the right amount to make it fun and likable for kids, but also not like insufferable for those who kind of are a little on the older side of things. Not saying we're old or anything, but yeah. So that's kind of my overall impressions of it. It was a great time. I even thought the human characters in this movie were pretty fun. Usually they're not that great, but in this film, pretty likable.
Yeah. We've discussed Detective Pikachu, Godzilla, King of Monsters on this podcast before, and my main gripe with those movies is that the human characters kind of get in the way of what we actually want to see as an audience, right? We want to see the creatures.
Right.
We want to see Pokemon. We want to see Godzilla. But the problem is they're side characters in their own movie. The humans are the main characters, and they're not very interesting or well done. This movie gets that we want Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's very much the centerpiece of this movie. There are human characters, like you said, and I agree. They're good. They're in supporting roles. They never get in the way of the central conflict, but they also make sense. James Marsden's character is like this cop in a small town. He wants to get out. He wants to, work in a big city and prove himself as a cop. Like, we get all their motivations to make sense. It's simple enough to support the movie, but not get in the way of, Sonic and Robotnik. I really enjoyed it, like you. It's very lighthearted. It's a throwback '90s kids movie with Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, what more could you ask for? I played so much Sonic the Hedgehog when I was a kid. I had a Sega Genesis. I played Sonic 1, 2, and 3, Sonic and Knuckles with a lock-on system. I played those games so much with my brother. I know each level, and I know the songs in each level, like inside out. So what I imagine a Sonic the Hedgehog movie would be was actually not in this movie. But I think this movie sets up something that could be exciting for fans of the game. And I'll get into more of that during the spoilers. But, I just loved how they weaved Sonic the Hedgehog's story into an Earth set story, and how they adapted elements from the video game, like the rings and all the worlds that Sonic goes to. Even Robotnik himself, I think the adaptation of those elements of the game into an Earth story was, is appropriate, and it was tasteful. It wasn't silly or stupid, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think the tone of the film is respectful to the games, and it captures the spirit of Sonic. He's got spunk. He's got a lot of attitude. He talks a lot, likes to make a lot of jokes. That's who Sonic the Hedgehog is. And, it makes me so proud that this movie broke the opening weekend record for video game-based movies. It grossed $57 million in the first 3 days. That's higher than Pokemon Detective Pikachu's $53 million.
Which is amazing.
And over the 4-day weekend, because of President's Day, it grossed $70 million total, and that it's overperforming basically. And so I'm happy for the movie. I'm happy for the character, because the Sonic brand has been up and down over the years, ever since the Genesis era. Like they haven't had a huge hit Sonic game in a long time. And so I think this does a lot of great things for the Sonic brand. I hope Sega responds with like quality Sonic games. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get a sequel, because Paramount has been thirsty for a hit movie. Last year was kind of a rough year for them. They had Terminator Dark Fate, which bombed. I can't remember off the top of my head what else they had, but they had like 3 movies, huge budgeted movies, that just tanked. And so I think this kind of breaks that dry spell for Paramount Pictures, and so I'm happy for the studio as well. Like I was getting a little concerned that they might get bought out, like how 20th Century Fox did. Mm-hmm. My one hope for a sequel is that it just takes us away from Earth, take us to other planets, just go full animation. Maybe Jim Carrey can stay live action, but everything else just give us full animation. With all the animals. Do you have any other non-spoiler thoughts before we get into spoilers?
No, yeah, I agree that just to talk about the studio itself, Paramount. I'm really happy for them too. It's been rough seeing Disney just take over the world. We love Disney. Don't get us wrong. I think you like Disney, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's been rough seeing them take everything though. Seeing that Fox is no longer going to be a brand in front of movies going forward after their last slate is done is really sad and almost disturbing to me. It's like we're becoming a monolithic society in a way. So I'm not to be so depressing, but I'm really glad for Paramount. I'm really glad that this seems to have worked. They seem to have done the right thing, got the right creator to get the feel of the movie right, and it is. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to mention this, but it is setting things up for a few more movies. So I'm all for that. Let's do it. Let's go. Go Sonic, go.
Oh, the other box office failure was Gemini Man, the Will Smith movie.
Oh man, and I'm sure they spent a lot.
They had
on
Gemini.
that too.
Yeah, they had Gemini Man, Terminator: Dark Fate. They had the animated movie Wonder Park. I don't think any of those did very well. Yeah, so I'm there with you. I'm happy. This is a classical studio. You know, they're like MGM. You know, that era.
That's right.
Like classical Hollywood. So it would be such a shame to see another studio fall. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot. It was something that you said, but maybe I'll remember it later.
Yeah, just holler it out later if it comes back to mind.
Yeah.
Spoilers?
Yes. I remember now. The redesign of the Sonic the Hedgehog character. We got to talk about that.
We have to. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about it.
Now, Sonic the Hedgehog and Cats, the first trailers for those movies, probably had the same degree of, vitriol online, right? Like so many memes, so many criticism on Twitter. It was terrible, man. That original design was hideous. He just looked. I don't know what got into their minds, like to think that fans would be okay with such a drastic redesign of the character. Like, I remember the first image they released was like a silhouette of Sonic the Hedgehog. It looked like a man dressed in a Sonic the Hedgehog outfit, and so his legs looked like human legs. It was so bizarre, and then when he finally came out, like his hands are supposed to be gloved, right? That's why they're white, but he just has white fur instead of a glove. It was just so weird. So I think the decision to redesign the character, oh my gosh, best decision. I mean, it won over fans. And it's kind of weird, right? The online discourse has always been like, don't listen to the fans. You got to make a movie for yourself or whatever, like make a movie that you would want to see as a filmmaker or as a studio. But like in this case, they paid off. Like they have people like the movie, and a lot of people showed up to see the film because the fans kind of saw that the studio listened.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an interesting point about the online discourse in this day and age, because there's the release the Snyder Cut crowd, that'll just kind of be super toxic about it. But with Sonic, people were pretty upset about the design too, but this redesign worked. It seemed to. I don't think this movie would succeed if they didn't listen.
No, I don't think so at all.
So it opens up an interesting question kind of about how much is too much listening to the fans and what's the right amount. And I hope that Paramount and the studio execs who decided to do this, and the creators and everybody who decided to do this, took this in an act of good faith and really made it work. But I'm curious, I'm curious if like that's a good thing going forward, because I mean, like, I don't know. It's all, and then there's other filmmakers who will say it's about the fans first and foremost. We're making movies for people who watch it. It's not like we're using. It's like these franchises aren't our platform to make an art house like magnum opus masterpiece, right? Like these are franchises that fans have bought into for years and years. And like, I love The Last Jedi, but would it have been better to kind of think through like, what would the fans be expecting in this moment? I don't know. So it's kind of an interesting discourse.
Yeah, I wanted to actually go in that direction because, you know, Rian Johnson, I respect him so much as a filmmaker. He's so talented. But yeah, I do wonder if maybe he just considered the fans and not so much like his own intuition, not like what he would want to see in a Star Wars movie, but what would everybody want to see? You know, like what is the natural progression from what J.J. Abrams started in The Force Awakens. But anyways, yeah, I think, you know, the whole reason why they spent so much money on these properties is because it has an existing fan base, right?
Right.
They're existing IPs. They've been around for a while. They have millions of fans. So I think it's logical. It's reasonable to want the filmmakers to make something that fans would want to see, you know? And
yeah.
I think it makes sense. And I don't think you should fault them for that because, I mean, these, like you said, these aren't art films. They're not quote unquote cinema like Martin Scorsese says, right? You know, they're theme parks. So, you know, theme parks are meant to please people. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, give us what the fans want.
Yeah, like I can't imagine a gritty, realistic Sonic the Hedgehog movie. You know, like it's.
Hey, you know what? That's what they're going for. They made it like a Sonic that looks like a man and a hedgehog. Like, I don't know. They made it and they had an offspring.
That's so hilarious. Yeah, it's I'm glad they didn't go there. Let's just end that at that.
Yeah. All right, let's get to spoilers. All right, starting now.
No, you're still holding on. Let go.
Yes.
I just have a couple of minor things because, I mean, there's, like we said, it's a great kids movie. There's not much depth to it, but you know, I think it is. Everything in the movie makes sense, and there's like actual character arcs in the story that, you know, I think it's reasonable the directions that they went with each of the characters. Like Sonic is a very lonely person, and he finds his friend in James Marsden. And James Marsden has all these big dreams, but in the end he learns to kind of like stay close to his roots, which is kind of subversive, you know? Like Hollywood likes stories about like breaking free from your small town roots and making it big in the big city and earning the respect of the world. But this movie goes in the opposite direction. Like, hey, stay in your hometown and be a small time cop. Very subversive. Maybe Rian Johnson did some touch-ups on this. I don't know.
He's script doctored.
Yeah. One very minor thing. I love how they reconciled. So in the U.S. version of the Sonic games, he was called Dr. Robotnik. And then in the Japanese versions, he was called Eggman, Dr. Eggman. So I like how in this movie, his name is actually Robotnik, but Sonic ends up giving him the nickname Eggman after the egg-like shapes of all his drones. So I thought that was like an interesting way to reconcile the two and to kind of explain it.
I didn't catch that. Yeah. That's great.
So I was like, okay, I guess they're going with the American version, and then he starts calling him Eggman at the end. I'm like, oh, cool. That's a nice little touch.
Yeah, love it. That's a great callback. I didn't catch that the first time, but that's fan service right there. Not like, hey, let's show this long shot of a bottle of blue milk because
Disneyland, we got that at Disneyland.
Oh, product placement. No, it's good. Can we talk about Jim Carrey though?
Oh yes, let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, so good. You mentioned this while we were watching this together. You said, dude, the return of Ace Ventura. It's perfect. It's perfect. We haven't seen Jim Carrey take on a role this zany in a long time, and dude, this is his comfort zone. This is who he is.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's great.
Yeah, seeing him dance, or
Yes.
seeing him dance around and then like do all these things with his face, like I was just smiling, like wow, he's back. Like the Jim Carrey of my child is back.
Yeah, I
And
want to see. I want to see more of. I just want to watch that again. I just want to watch the movie just to see Jim Carrey all over again.
Yeah, and you know what? Like the end of the movie is, he gets Sonic basically has this mushroom planet. There's no life forms except mushrooms everywhere. That's like the last place that he wants to go to hide because everyone's after his powers. So he has to go from world to world. But at the end, the way he defeats Robotnik is he opens the ring to the mushroom world, and then Robotnik ends up in the mushroom world. And at the very last that we see of Robotnik is he looks insane. He's shaved his head. He has the crazy mustache like in the games. All he needs to do is just gain like 200 pounds. But I think in his current mental state in the mushroom world, like dude, he's gonna be like true, like he's gonna be like the Mask Jim Carrey. You know what I mean?
I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah,
He's so good in this movie. I can't. Yeah, I want there to be sequels, and there will be after the success of this movie.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
they've got Paramount's got a hit on their hands, so for sure they're not gonna give it up. I think also I have an idea for the sequel, and I think they've set it up basically in this movie. I think maybe this is the direction that they're going to go in. But post-credit scene, Tails comes out.
Yes.
And I freaked out in the theater.
I yelled as if it was like, oh, Captain Marvel. Just kidding.
Yeah. My hope is that Robotnik is taking over other worlds. So he's left the mushroom world and he's taking over other worlds. He's enslaving animals and putting them into his machines, just like in the video games. And then they need Sonic. Tails basically needs Sonic to return back to their home world to save all their animal friends. And I feel like that's a way to get Sonic off Earth, away from the human characters, and into a story that resembles more of the video game.
Yes.
That could be a setup, I think, for the second movie. That could be what the second movie's about. But what would be awesome in the post-credit scene for the second movie, dude, have Knuckles come out. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I would explode. Yeah. And bring it back to Earth. You can bring that story, merge the two storylines, the Earthbound story and then the Animal World story. You can merge them into one and then have just, global, like a global conflict or something.
Man, there's so much they could do with this. I wonder, has Sonic the Hedgehog, the franchise and the brand, been active still in the world, or is this its grand comeback? Have they been doing games still?
Yeah, so in the last 20, 25, 30 years, like they've been making Sonic the Hedgehog games.
Okay, so it's been ongoing.
Yeah, it's been ongoing, but they've gotten really poor reviews, and the games aren't very good. I know that they came out with Sonic Mania 2 or 3 years ago, which was essentially a sequel to the old games on Genesis. Like, it looks exactly like the old games. They kind of abandoned the 3D platform, the action adventure style, third person style Sonic games. I don't know, for some reason it just doesn't work as well, where they haven't really figured out how to do Sonic in a modern game engine. So instead they just went backwards and just made him 2D again. And I think a lot of people like that game. It got really good reviews. I think it sold well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think the movie coming out and making all this money, it does help the Sonic brand, and I really hope they kind of figure out how to do Sonic well in modern times.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that it's doing so well, because I don't know how well kids these days know about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Has it been around? Are kids growing up with this nowadays, or is this their first time seeing it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's cool. My coworker today told me that her son, who's like around 7 years old, like he wants to watch Sonic the Hedgehog, but he's never played any of the games. But it's just because all his friends at school are talking about it.
Oh.
So, yeah, I'm wondering. I'm curious how that happened. Hopefully, someone does like an analysis on that.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see think pieces about it after this. No one was expecting this movie to
for
take
sure.
off like this.
Yeah, I mean, it was projected like 30 million debut, but
70.
but like 70. Yeah. It's crazy. That's awesome. I think Paramount's gonna have a good year.
Yeah.
You know, they've got A Quiet Place Part 2, and they have Top Gun Maverick. Oh my gosh, those movies are gonna be so good.
For those of you who are still listening, we are now the Paramount podcast. We're
Yes.
only discussing Paramount movies from now on.
I mean, someone's got to root for them, right? So
That's right.
we're cheering them on.
Yeah. I wonder if there is a Paramount specific podcast where all they talk about is Paramount releases. Probably not.
Well, we should become that then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we're gonna probably talk about Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Top Gun Maverick. Those deserve their own episodes for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna top our 200 view count first episode finally. With
Maybe all of our views this year will add up to 219.
Let's hope so.
First episode.
Thank you to everyone who still listens, though. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think this pretty much concludes, right?
Yeah,
this
is it.
episode.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and until next time, we'll see you again soon.
See you later.